Welcome back to Rich Dad StockCast. I'm your host, Denney, and today we're addressing one of the biggest traps in investing, not just stock tips. Everyone wants the next hot pick, the next breakout stock, the insider move, but here's the reality. Tips don't build wealth, skills do. Because even if someone hands you a winning trade, even if you don't understand why it works, you won't be able to repeat it. And eventually you'll give it all back. So today, Rich Dad expert Andy Tanner is joining me to break down why financial education beats stock tips every single time and how you start thinking like an investor instead of a follower. And before we get into our interview, make sure you go to stockcastbonus.com, grab your free investing tools. If you want to build real investing confidence, that's where you start. Andy, welcome back.
Boy, this is a high-risk episode because there's just a few topics that sort of poke the tiger. You want to talk about 401ks? I'm going to come after it. I'm going to pull the gloves off. And when it comes to the idea of getting tips versus getting educated, this is one of those things that gets me going. So I won't apologize for it, but I'll give a warning that it's likely to happen. Because I have a disdain, not just for the concept of advice, but for the people that perpetuate it. I don't think highly of them. So I will not hold back, and I will unabashedly bash that idea. And I'll take a baseball bat to it the best way I can. So there you go.
You have no idea how excited I am to poke the tiger.
It could be ugly. It could be ugly.
Now, before I poke the tiger, before it gets ugly, stockcastbonus.com, great resources there.
Yeah, let's talk about something good first.
Let's calm it down just a second here. What do our listeners receive before I poke the tiger?
Hey, your name is on it. Free stuff, right? Just go claim it. Put your name in there and say, I want this. And we've got a great download. It was interesting. It wasn't my idea to write this ebook that's available. It was actually came from one of our team members, said, you should talk about it this way. I thought, okay. And it has been wildly successful in terms of the praise it's gotten, and people have appreciated that free gift. So you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You take that gift and run with it because it's free. There's also inside that ebook links to resources at our website, and those are also free. And they are life-changing, and we have the student testimonials to show that is the case. So it's a huge opportunity that's missed if you haven't gotten that organized, comprehensive. It's really a good way to build a wealth plan and what I call your wealth blueprint. People, they bounce their checkbook, but they don't often have a wealth plan or blueprint of how they're going to go about things. And that download helps you really bridge the idea from observing and listening and watching to doing. And it's a great catalyst for that. So I highly recommend it. And it's no charge. So that's even better.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Now, the heart of our conversation, financial education, stock tips, there's a phrase that I think is a triggering phrase for you, and it goes like this. Hey, Andy, I've got $10,000. Where should I put it?
Oh, man.
First of all, go ahead. Okay, go ahead and expound on that one.
First of all, if you only have $10,000, don't go advertising it to everybody. Never lie. Don't be dishonest, but you don't need to advertise that you only got 10 grand. Now that sounds kind of mean because, and the victims of the world will tell me that it's not their fault, and it's probably not. So, I'll be wrong on that if they want to call me wrong. So let's just start. Let's just start. Okay. First of all, let's not pretend as many people, and it's not that they do it on purpose. It's just on the surface, advice and education might feel synonymous. But I will tell you this, and I catch myself whenever I feel I need advice, I pause and I realize that why do I need advice? Because I don't know what to do. I lack the knowledge to make the decision. And so I'm trying to have someone else tell me what to do. And I'm usually going to that person because of what they know and because of what I don't. So the idea that advice would be an antidote for the condition of ignorance is nutty, because in a perfect world, like I don't call people up for stock advice. They call me, and I don't. I might have mentors and teammates that I say, hey, here's an idea, but it's my idea. It's my, let's bounce this off, poke holes in it, right? Rather than let's learn more. And so when people say that they want a stock tip, or they say, I got $10,000, what would I do with it? That is a confession of ignorance. When they say it, the very moment it slips across their lips, if you had $10,000, that's all you had, what would you do with it? If you don't know the answer to that question, then that is a self-assessment and a self-diagnosis of not knowing what to do. And the reason people are not where they want to be is because of an education deficit. The reason risk bites, and Warren Buffett will tell you, the biggest risk in the market is ignorance. It's the number one risk. Number one thing that will kick your face in is playing a game you don't know. And so the idea so two thoughts here. When a person is seeking advice, that is a confession that they don't know what they're doing. And number two, it's a false remedy to think, well, if I just had advice. Now, I can pause there, or I can keep going. You tell me, because I'm not even close to done yet.
Please go. I keep the vein of thought going.
There is, my poor listeners have to deal with all my basketball analogies. Basketball is counterintuitive. Most people move forward and backward in their life. They don't move side to side or backwards. I mean, the reason you're so sore after playing that sport is you're doing stuff that's really not normal in nature. You're either running towards the food or running away from it. You don't go and play defense in the wild. And so it's counterintuitive, to stay in a stance and not reach for the ball, right? To want to shoot instead of looking for the better shot later on. It's just counterintuitive. And as people grow as players, they learn to fight off the primal, embedded, innate nature. Well, that's the same with investing. And probably one of the more primal ideas, if you go to the Serengeti and watch, is the idea of the free meal, where you can get something for nothing. So, for example, if you're a cheetah and you look out in the herd, you're not taking down the big steak, you're taking down the veal, right? You want the weak, sick, young, broken leg thing that you can take down easy. And if you're a hyena, that's fantastic, because now you can just steal a meal and you get something for nothing. That's why stealing is something that happens in the wild. They will steal a meal from another animal because stealing is trying to get something for nothing, right? Without earning it. And that's why we have, stories in the Bible of the Garden of Eden that sounds so wonderful, because labor, according to the Bible, labor is a punishment. You eat the wrong apple off a tree and you're going to be punished. And here's your punishment for eating the wrong apple off the wrong tree. Here's your punishment. By the sweat of your brow will you earn your bread all the days of your life until you return to the ground. You are now in a life of noxious weeds and terrible beasts that are going to afflict and torment man. It is a punishment to have to earn things and work. I'm not going to disagree with the Bible, but I am going to offer a different point of view. Could work be a beautiful opportunity to throw yourself into service of others? There's another principle that might ring true from our Buckminster Fuller. The more people that I serve, the more effective I am. And that's what work is really about, is serving other people. If you think about the work that you do, you're going to serve yourself, your wife, your family, probably serve some others. And if you get really, really good at your work, you can serve many more people and be effective. So the idea of work being condemned and wanting something without working for it or learning, and just listen to this in this phrase, oh, I don't want to have to learn anything about investing. Just tell me what to buy. That is literally asking for money and a windfall without any work, effort, or learning. You're asking literally for something for nothing. Andy, just give me the stock tip. Just give me the money. Give me the return. Give me the blessings. Give me the reward. Don't want any of the risk. Don't want any of the learning. Don't want any of the personal development we spoke about in the last episode. None of that. just the money for no effort. That is what stock advice is. It is the laziest, awful, and it is born of ignorance, and it perpetuates ignorance. You tell me when to stop, because I can go for 5 hours on this. It perpetuates ignorance. If someone says, Andy, should I buy gold? And I say, sure. Have they learned a thing about gold? No. If they say, should I buy gold? I say, no, I don't think so right now. They know nothing about fungible or precious metals or stores of value or technical analysis or fundamentals or any of that stuff. And so not only does advice come from ignorance, it perpetuates it, sustains it, and ensures that condition indefinitely. And so people are always looking for the next tip and the next tip. You want me to stop? You want me to keep going? Because I am telling you, I have a disdain for the advice culture that is, it gets me lit up, man. It's how Wall Street makes their money. They are dependent. Without ignorance, they don't exist. Without ignorance, they have no justification. The only reason they can justify fees is they say, we understand this and you don't. So just let us advise you with our advice. We'll be a financial advisor. They're not educators. Financial advisors give advice. They tell you what to do. And they leave you in that ignorant state perpetually. It's lazy, it's ignorant, and it robs people of the blessings of knowledge. Imagine going through your life saying, I understand things. I know what to do. I get this. I'm good at it. Advice robs people of that status, and they step over the ore that is rich with gold. It's hard to see because it's in the ore, and they step over the richness of that ore for iron pyrite called advice, fool's gold. And don't get me going.
Well, I want to add to this, and I think it's interesting. It made me think. I sent you a text earlier this year. If you're watching this, I don't know when you're watching this. In early 2026, there was an article that I read. It was called "Inverse Kramer," and it was the stock picks that were opposite of what
Jim Cramer
did. All the stock advice that he was giving. If you did the opposite, I think the return on the year was like 56% or something like that.
Yeah, it's like George Costanza. You start doing the opposite of what he says, I'm just going to do the opposite of what I think I should do. And all of a sudden he's got girlfriends and job success. It's George Costanza. Just do the opposite, right?
Well, I've got friends too that like when they say something, I do the opposite and it tends to be better.
Yeah. I don't know that we have room for it before the break. But I tell you, there is ways to identify that difference that are life-changing that we could go into. When we put advice on one hand and education on the other, begin to analyze their differences, they are not synonymous, even though they feel that way, right? I don't know what to do, so I need to learn. Advice and education are opposites. They're not parallel lanes on the same highway. They are opposite. They're not even on the same map. They're not even on the same planet. They're so different.
Indeed. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. Listeners, if tips don't create lasting success, then what does? So when we come back, Andy is going to break down how financial education changes everything, how it gives you control, how it gives you confidence and consistency as an investor. And don't forget, go to stockcastbonus.com. Grab your free resources. This is where you start building real investing skills. So stick around. We'll be right back.
So far, it's been great. I needed a source where I could really enrich my education through stocks. I didn't really have an avenue for it, and it's helped me a lot. The simplicity has really gotten me on the track to where I enjoy the learning as well as it's really solidifying in my mind. And like, they're not just trying to sell you something. They really care about the people that are in the course, and they really do care about you and your personal goals, and what you want to do is to help you and your family and whatever your goals are in life through that. So it's really been great.
Welcome back to Rich Dad StockCast. Now, Andy, let's talk about the solution. We mentioned what's life-changing, knowing the difference between financial education and the advice, the tips, watching Mad Money or whatever you're watching. How can this be life-changing? What can we do?
Well, first of all, let me throw a couple more. Let me beat the horse because it's not dead yet. People are still in the advice culture. So first of all, it's ignorant, right? Advice comes from ignorance and perpetuates it. Secondly, it's lazy. It's a something for nothing hope. Tell me what to do. I don't want to have to do any work. Just tell me what to buy, right? Tell me what button to click. That's effortless. The third one is disrespectful, exceedingly. I've told this on the podcast before, but it bears repeating. I'm on a flight from Salt Lake City to Atlanta to do a speech. I was going to connect and then go to Orlando. I'm in my first class seat, got my Bose headphones almost there. And my seatmate decides that he wants to chat. So now I got a kink neck for 4 hours. And I just put my Bose down. And I sat for 4 hours, I sat next to the world's greatest surgeon in history. Like, he was the best surgeon in the history of mankind. And the reason I know that is he told me all about that he was. He let me know how great he was. All the schooling, all this, blah, 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 the sacrifice, hard work. Nobody knows it's so hard to obtain this knowledge. Now I have it, all that crap. We get the announcement, the wheels are down, and we're going to make our final approach. Put your tray up and, put your seat back up, which is like 1 inch from recline to there. Put your seat back up. That's life-saving, right? And the guy goes, so what do you do? Now that he's told me about him for 4 hours, I said, I do some investing and I teach a little bit. And he says, oh, like stocks and stuff? Yeah, I go, yeah, something like that, like stocks and stuff. He goes, hey, I've been thinking to invest a little money. You got any good tips for me? And I almost said it. I says, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we trade tips? I was thinking about replacing my bicuspid valve tonight. You want to give me a few freaking tips? As if what he did as a heart surgeon was like, took immense knowledge. What I did is just, give me a couple of tips. You're a surgeon. You can figure. I almost want to say, you're a surgeon. You're obviously smarter than me. Why don't you go freaking figure it out, pal? Drove me crazy. So disrespectful, as if his knowledge was, earned and hard to obtain. Let me tell you, man, I've made a lot of mistakes, learned school. I've learned a lot, and I'm proud of that. So it's disrespectful to reduce that down. Now, here's the other thing that's bigger. Advice changes with the wind. You could have what is great advice, a great move at 10 a.m., and by 2 o'clock, it's the dumbest thing you could ever do. It changes with the wind. The shelf life of advice is perishable in the shortest amounts of time. I mean, you could have it, the expiration, the machine breaks almost the moment you buy it. It can break, right? Now, contrast that side by side with knowledge. What survives time? The pyramids are getting eaten away. They're not in the same shape they used to be. All things must pass away except for knowledge and truth. The Newtonian physics persist. Gravity persists. What Mr. Fuller called generalized principles, they're true in all cases, bear, bull, any market, and they persist. They are one of the only things that's stronger than surviving time. They're freaking permanent. And once you learn something, it can't be stolen. Gold can be stolen. Your identity can be stolen. People steal my identity all the time, create fake Facebook accounts, acting like they're me. They try to steal stuff all the time. You can't steal what I know. You cannot take that from me. And it will last until I die. And if I teach my kids, it'll last in perpetuity longer than time. The contrast between knowledge and advice. What is it that you want? Why would people shortcut the journey and the satisfaction and the expertise and the knowledge? Why would they see that as a bad thing? Well, because school tells you it's a bad thing. You have to do your homework. Well, there's no spirit to that. But knowledge, education, there's a couple of gaps. I alluded to this before and didn't finish the loop. There is a gap that exists between ignorance and knowledge. When I get in trouble, it's often because I was playing a game I didn't understand. So you fill the gap between ignorance and knowledge with this process called education. Pull it out of you, you learn it. The other gap that's more frustrating is the gap, for me at least, is the huge gap that exists between what I know and my behavior. And that is solved by what we call implementation, discipline, getting it done. Implementation is where we master things, and our behavior becomes congruent with our knowledge. One of my many majors in college that I filled out was exercise physiology. So I know how this got here. I'm not lost or ignorant to the 235% of the daily saturated fat that's in a carton of Ben and Jerry's. I know why it happened, but my gap is in the incongruence between my knowledge and my behavior. So advice doesn't fix either of those. It doesn't fix either of them. Education fixes one, and then discipline and working on yourself and failed attempts and work and action, that's the other. So that's the deal. Come on in. I got some guests. You just saw some people come in the studio. Welcome. So that's the deal. So the question really for this podcast is look yourself in the mirror and say, what do I want? Wall Street wants you to be ignorant because then you need them. I don't need them. Don't need them. I mean, I absolutely do not need them. And someone's going to tap out and say, I want to be average, less fees. And that's Wall Street. We're going to diversify you. We're going to follow the S&P minus fees, which guarantees you'll be lower than average because you're going to be average, less their fees. The very thing you could have done without knowing anything, you can do without them. It's just you're going to be average. There's a crowd, and Buffett will tell you, join that crowd if you don't want to be educated. Don't take the advice because you don't need it. Just get the lowest cost index fund you have and, embrace the averageness and be a stoic and enjoy it. Now, he doesn't do that. He's educated. He says, look, no need to have, 1,000 stocks in an index fund diversifying. He says even 30 or 40, you start saying, why would you put money in number 50 of your list of attractiveness instead of number 1 or number 5, right? Diversification's an ignorance, and it's what the advice people do. Assets under management's the name of the game. There's no reason to give the assets under management if you knew how to do it yourself. You're going to be average, less fees. This is documented. This is not a theory of mine. Go to SPIVA, S&P 500 versus actively managed funds. It's the acronym SPIVA, spiva.com. And 9 out of 10 fail to beat the S&P. Why? Because they're copying the S&P, less fees, which guarantees underperformance most of the time, and it's been that way forever. That's the advice culture. And why people would have a disdain for financial education. I know I'm an education advocate. I know I am. But why would they have a disdain for that? It's beyond me. Why would I want to be dumb? Why would I want to walk around being a child grows and becomes independent of his father or her father? The whole idea is not to need mommy and daddy to tell me what to do anymore, to be independent, to be able to live in the world and make your own choices. There is a maturation to true investors that is similar to where we do not need. It's not that we don't collaborate. It's not that I don't have other educated people that we think, but it's not advice, it's knowledge. So, I said I wouldn't apologize for the rants, and, I'm long-winded anyway. People that listen to the cast know that. And hopefully that's the big picture concept is don't ask someone, if I had $10,000, and what would you do with it? I would say don't let anyone know you only have $10,000, especially if you're older, right? Because it'll say maybe reveal a bit more than you wanted to with that question.
Indeed.
Ignorant, something for nothing, lazy, disrespectful, makes Wall Street rich. The list goes on. Advice is not a parallel road on a highway that is going the same place. It is changing with the wind, knowledge endures, the whole thing. It's not even a contest which one is better, but to each their own. To each their own.
Now, if someone that's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, tired of the advice, I want to start thinking like a professional, stop relying on tips. what's the first step I need to take this week?
Well, we talked about knowledge and action, the incongruence. Well, the gap between ignorance and knowledge is education. So find ways to get educated. StockCastBonus.com, great start. The other one is implement, to make sure you're doing things, to make sure that your behavior after you watch a podcast or a program like this, that your behavior changes and becomes more congruent with what was learned and with what was true. And those are your steps. Those are the two big gaps of personal development. Is I got to know what to do, and then I got to get myself to do what I'm doing. And then the third one really is to carve away the marble that you don't need, bad habits, intuitions that don't serve you, overcoming the weaknesses of the flesh. So there you go. That's the first steps.
I love it. Thank you, Andy, for breaking this down for us. Listeners, stock tips might feel exciting, but they don't build a future. Financial education does. And once you understand how investing really works, you don't need to follow the crowd. You can make your own decisions with confidence. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start investing with clarity, go to StockCastBonus.com right now. You'll find free tools and resources designed to help you to build real financial intelligence. Now, if this episode gave you value, make sure you like it. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, share it with someone who's tired of chasing tips. You're not here by accident. You're building something that most people won't. So stay smart, stay invested, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Del.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.